Karin Miles is talking to us about making friends with dementia. A recent population study of men and women from all regions of the U.S. reports that 1 out of 7 of those out of over 70 have one or more of the various forms of dementia. Karin Miles was diagnosed with vascular dementia last spring. While attending to the slow and not so slow diminishment of capabilities, Karin has been proactive in educating herself and her loved ones about dementia, including the benefits of full acceptance of the diagnosis and intelligent management of constantly changing abilities and interests. As opposed to roadblocks replete with suffering and challenges, when taken on with a light heart and good friends, it can even take on the quality of gifts. Let's welcome our friend, Karin Miles.
Yeah, kind of neat. Well, no.
What do you need? Do you need a background back to hold up your talk?
No, I think let's
I'll
do it.
take this away then.
Okay. Hello. Am I live and everyone can hear?
Yeah.
Good. So thank you, Margaret, especially for the humor. A sense of humor is pretty darn helpful when traveling on the dementia path, either as a sufferer or as a caregiver. Happily, along with considerable difficulties, there are lots of funny things that arise from thoughts, words, actions. So having a sense of humor is really and truly an asset. As Margaret said, I was diagnosed with vascular dementia a year ago this month. It was not a surprise. Not only did both of my parents have very serious vascular issues, which included very long lives, oddly enough, but I was diagnosed with hypertension at age 16. Even though I have taken prescription drugs for hypertension every single day for 56 years, only in the last 6 months have I been prescribed a medication that actually lowered my blood pressure to safe level. But, you know, too little, too late. The damage has definitely been done. So, the beginning of a dementia drama, which it is most commonly the medical diagnosis. In my case, my husband, David Yutt, pointed out to me one evening that I was regularly telling the same stories over and over and over, completely oblivious to the fact that I was repeating. That conversation soon led to an MRI from which the vascular dementia was easily made. So that diagnosis last March kick-started planning the rest of our lives, or actually, more truthfully, replanning the rest of our lives. But happily, David and I are not alone on our journey. Dementia is a shared event in the lives of an ever-expanding cadre of people. The Alzheimer's Association reports that 1 in 8 of us over 65, that is 13% of us, will be diagnosed with dementia. Of those over 70, 1 in 7, or 13.9%, will develop dementia. When we consider that each person with dementia has at least one significant caregiver, we can see that the percentage of people directly impacted by dementia doubles to nearly 30% of those of us 70 and over. 30%. In other words, there are a whole lot of us who, along with our partners and our closest friends, will be managing the long and lonely journey between diagnosis and the end of life. So that road involves, for all concerned, for the entire length of the road, it involves living with the ravages of dementia each and every day. So it seems to me that something that impacts 30% of a cohort requires, and maybe even demands, attention. We who have dementia and our caregivers are not just a wee little group on the sidelines now, are we? But we are everywhere. We're everywhere. So, in fairness, though, it might be good to remember that before our cohort, most human beings didn't even live long enough to get dementia. So this particular suffering in this particular time is a byproduct of modern medicine's gift of longevity. So the most common types or forms of dementia are vascular dementia, Alzheimer's, dementia with Lewy bodies, which often is associated with Parkinson's, frontotemporal dementia, and a catch-all called mixed dementia. It is, I understand, not uncommon for a person diagnosed with vascular dementia to develop another type or two along the way. So I'm actually really looking forward to that part. So, dementia is considered both a medical condition and an interpersonal condition. Interpersonal because the patient's loved ones, and most especially their partners, possess the ability to influence the development of the disease process through the quality of their caregiving. So let me do that sentence again. It's the most important sentence I will deliver today. Dementia is considered both a medical condition and an interpersonal condition. Interpersonal because the patient's loved ones, most especially their partners, possess the ability to influence the development of the disease process through the quality of their caregiving. So a question that comes to mind then is, as one of the recently diagnosed ones, is how in the world our partners and our friends are supposed to learn what is helpful and what is harmful. How do we, the recently diagnosed, learn what is helpful and what is not? The answer, of course, as it always has been, is education. Those of us in the early stages of dementia and all caregivers really must educate ourselves. But what good fortune! The entire world and everything that anybody knows about anything is online. And of course, there are cajillions of helpful books available, hardback, paperback, ebooks, whatever, and endless other resources. And in my short time dealing with these issues, I really have found that the Alzheimer's Association is an unbelievably fabulous resource. So you can just go on to Alzheimer's Association in your state of choice and actually gather lots of helpful information. So I'm speaking to caregivers here when I describe your unbidden project as one of continually reshaping the deck of the Titanic so that your passenger ends up safely in the lifeboat. It is an outsized responsibility, and I am absolutely sure no fun at all. So it is indeed noble work. Obviously, those of us who have been diagnosed in the early stages can and should educate ourselves to whatever degree possible. But our single biggest required task is accepting our circumstance. So I can say to you, it's not easy, but I do think it's doable. It's a tough one. Just know that. So here's the reason it's tough. One of the painful parts of dementia is that before our diagnosis, we experience ourselves as vital, intimate partners in our closest relationships. And then, poof, we wake up one day to discover that we have become a liability. Kind of like a pet or a mortgage. We have suddenly become something that needs to be managed, that needs to be maintained. Big switch. So, as you know, as we all know, to some degree, the most prominent aspect of dementia is disruption of memory. So, as it turns out, we have three types of memory: episodic, procedural, and prospective. Episodic memory is our autobiographical knowledge, stuff that has happened in our life, and mainly that's held in middle and long-term memory. The second one, procedural memory, is remembering how to do something. You know, like taking a shower, making a scrambled egg, playing an instrument, using utensils, using tools, and so on. Procedural memory is processed in our subconscious, so that once we have mastered a skill, like for instance playing the piano, no effort is required to retrieve it and put it into action. Other examples are getting dressed, driving a car, or eating a meal. Although, I must say, even though I'm still driving, that's pretty scary, right? But anyway. And actually, so this is where education helps. One morning, I was reading dementia literature on my computer, and I read the sentence that skills that you had before your dementia diagnosis are often unharmed, and you can bring them back up again. So I thought, think. What did I used to know how to do? Well, I couldn't hardly remember. Then I thought, oh, yeah, that's right. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I played the piano. Wow. So I need a piano. And you know how that worked out was, by the end of that day, thanks to the Buddhist Heart of Awareness community, I walked into my house and there was an 88-key piano keyboard. An amazing thing. And I pulled out my book of classical music, turned to page 31, and began playing. So I'm 72, and probably the last time I played the piano was when I was 22. I'm thrilled. I'm completely thrilled. So come over and listen to me play the piano anytime. So, prospective memory, the third category, is remembering to do something later. Uh-oh. So, prospective memory involves, first, forming the intention to do something later. Next, getting sidetracked by something totally unrelated. And then, without a prompt, remembering to return to the initial intention. So, it's important to know that prospective memory, and just because you've heard it here today, you may notice the next time you turn off, pull off track, and then say, where was I headed? Started off. So, there are some things that exacerbate memory problems in we with dementia. Those are anxiety, worry, stress, and depression. That's pretty much the mind states that arise front and center about 1 minute after getting your diagnosis. Anxiety, worry, stress, and depression just come bubbling up. Other cognitive processes are negatively affected over time as well. Planning, solving logistical problems, keeping track of time or days of the week, maintaining stable spatial awareness, and more. And as if those were not really enough, dementia brings with it our favorite: confusion, increased problems with sight and or hearing. I have hearing loss. Difficulties using numbers correctly. Loss of directional sense, which I have to say I've always had, and more. However, and importantly, there are two primary arenas in which those of us with dementia can find solace. The first is the spiritual realm, or whatever it is that we call that which gives us a sense of meaning. For me, without the slightest doubt, it has been 34 years of dedicated study and practice on the Buddhist path. There are no words to express the depth of my gratitude for that piece of good fortune in this lifetime. So here's the beauty of having found myself on that path. For 3 decades, I have been practicing with the breath, returning to the present moment over and over and over, 7 billion times and still counting. Well, with dementia, soon I'm likely to be in the present moment all of the time. So how perfect is that? I think that's probably an added bonus. I also think that the years of metta or loving kindness practice will continue to serve me well and others in my midst as well. So, after we receive a diagnosis, hopefully someone will come along and help us reflect on the totality of who we are, seeing that we are so much more than a cognitive self. We are also emotional beings in relationship with others and spiritual beings in relationship with the divine or transcendent. The other realm in which people with dementia find solace is the animal realm, because animals love unconditionally. And animals, I'm not live, there I am. And, okay, because animals love unconditionally and can care less. I'm not on. No. I suppose I'm supposed to know what to do. Are you there? Yes. Okay. The other realm, second realm, in which people with dementia can find solace is the animal realm, because animals love conditionally and can care less if you forget their names. That's why we have pets, right? But check this out. This information, totally new to me, seriously activated my desiring mind. There are actually trained service dogs for dementia patients. That would be, let's see, dementia doggies. Yep, I'm totally nuts about this whole idea. There are training centers in Israel and Scotland, and likely other places as well. So, let's say the wanting mind gets going and you order up a dementia dog. When you get your dog, you won't be using a harness, but only a leash and an electronic collar. So the job of a dementia dog is to take you home when you give the order home. If you forget to give the order home, or are lost to the degree that the two of you have wandered off into an unfamiliar area, your caregiver can activate a GPS device on the dog's collar and call you home. If for some reason you're not capable of walking home, like for instance you fell, the dog is trained to remain with you, calling attention to the situation by barking. But wait, there's more. The dementia dogs are also trained to help guide you through the day. Now this is sounding good, right? For example, an electronic timer can sound a tone that causes the dog to bring you a bite-proof bag of medicine, along with a note inside reminding you to take your medicine. Another tone can prompt the dog to walk you into the bathroom, where there will be a note indicating that you should drink a glass of water. I mean, really, how fun is that? It really sounds like a fun thing to do around the house, having this dog organizing your life. So I'll say just a bit about how I'm managing my diagnosis, although part of the answer is that I'm standing here talking. So I do know what is happening, and so far, I have not and am not freaked out. But that does not mean that 30 seconds from now I won't be. So somehow I just even have that feeling that freaking out is pretty much a required part. So sooner or later I will or won't. Of course, I truly wish the circumstances were different, especially for David and me. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Babbling about it doesn't do anything. The dementia literature says that ultimately the afflicted brain is, in the end, only in the present moment. See? So I can read that sentence and say, wow, that's pretty great. That sounds good. Everything falls away except for the present. So it's pretty interesting that arriving in the present moment has been my goal for 3 decades. I mean, I'm getting my wish in a particular way. So maybe dementia really is my friend. When we accept living in the present, we may also come to realize that it is a special privilege to be released from memories and from future worries. Just a thought. Finally, I am perplexed that with so many of us literally wandering about, there aren't all kinds of dementia support services already happening here at Lakeside. But there are not. As they say, though, there never is a better moment than this present one. I feel like it would be really helpful for me to be part of a dementia sufferers support group. We could go to lunch, place our orders, and then see if we remember what we ordered when the food comes. I mean, actually, that's a problem. I mean, I really want to say. The other night I was at dinner I think at a table with 10 people. And actually, when the food started coming, it was only because the guy on my right remembered what I ordered that I actually got fed. So, and you caregivers, you who have a spouse or someone in your household experiencing dementia, would you benefit by having companions on the path with you? Support groups for caregivers would provide time and space for kicking back, relaxing, sharing, working with, learning how to cope with confounding problems, those which make tending dementia patients so darn challenging. So our closest people need a break, and they need to have dialogue with others who are in their same circumstance. And what about others of you who have training or possess even an inclination to lead a group of caregivers or of people with dementia? If you have interest in being in a dementia support group, or if you're a caregiver who would like some folks alongside of you to understand what your days are like, or if you are interested in being a group leader, You just know if you don't have to have training. You just know if you can do it or not. You could leave your contact information per the usual plan on the sign-up sheets under the tree. That will help us see what kind of a group we have. Also, on March 17th, there will be a meeting of all people who are interested in coming. Those are those of us with dementia, those of us like David who are a caregiver for a person like me, plus anyone who has interest in helping people with this challenge. March 17th at the Heart of Awareness Center on Guadalupe, Victoria 101. So just watch the usual places and the usual email sites for specific information and a reminder about that meeting. It would be great if a lot of you could come, and it would just help us get kind of a group effort toward organization of help for our very own selves. I do wish, I hope there's no one else in this space today with dementia or caring with a person with dementia. But I just know that's not true. I know it's not true. It actually takes the weight off by sticking your hand up and saying, I'm one too. I mean metaphorically, of course. I'm one too. So what I'm saying is, there's help. There's help, person to person. Please, if you are getting really upset about forgetting the same stuff over and over and over, forgetting your car keys, going back in to get them, not remembering what you came for, going back out to the car, discovering you don't have your car keys, going like that, It'd be just nice to know, to be squeezing the hand of someone else who is having the exact same problem. And you caregivers, you really need to get together and gripe and complain. You do. It's seriously important for your own mental health. So I surely wish that each of you has optimum health and well-being today and every single day. Thank you.
We was to perform, and we without any diagnosis, read that together. Anyway, if you have a question for Karin, she's happy to answer. Hold your hand.
Let me clarify that. I am happy to trot.
What is the one best thing that a caregiver can do for her spouse that may be suffering from dementia?
I think there's actually a whole list of ways. I think it's pretty much a complete training. It's not just a piece, and I don't know that there is just one thing, but on the part of the caregiver, acceptance of the circumstance and a genuine reflection that the love and caring between two people, a patient and a caregiver, that that actually is sacred and everything can be said and explored. So I don't know that there's an honest, specific thing. I really can't give you that exact answer, but there is a lot. I mean, obviously things like, how many times have I told you to close the refrigerator door? Is not an example. So it's probably easier to give you the example, you know. And that's why caregivers have to be actually processing their utter frustration all of the time. I would say there's not a single way to say that it's harder to be a dementia sufferer or to be a dementia sufferer's caregiver. No, it's a big old assignment. Either way.
Up here, on your right, Karen, up here.
Where? Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing today, and especially your sense of humor. My question to you, because I know you've done a lot of research, is have you heard of 23andMe gene study, which identifies the mutation that causes dementia?
Well, this is really fun because the answer is yes, and I did that last year. I sent in all my stuff to 23andMe. Actually, a day before the government cut them off from being able to send medical information to people. I looked at it again yesterday because I became curious about this same question. So, my genetic report said that I have a 12.5% chance of developing Alzheimer's. So, it's like, oh yeah, good. So that was really good I did that, but really, I'm not sure how helpful that information actually is. It's fun, because you can answer questions in public, but, you know.
There you go.
A question here. I don't know where you are.
Right over here.
I got it, yeah. What are some of the recommendations for exercise, nutrition, vitamins from the medical research that's been done so far?
Well, you guys are asking me probably more questions than I know. I know something about that. The most important exercise is walking, 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 and then walking some more. The idea, and I'm speaking here of vascular dementia, guys. Really, I focused on that because that's my issue. So for me in particular, getting oxygen to the brain is really important. So heart rate up as much as possible. I mean, I think there's no such thing as walking too much in a day. Maybe walking too hard might be something, but the more your heart rate is up in the course of 24 hours, the better your brain is going to function. You know, actually, the little pieces that I've seen about nutrition don't seem that exciting to me. Actually, I didn't learn anything that would predispose me to change my diet, for instance. So, you know, so yes, so, you know, I do take some supplements, although actually I have found that it's possible in thinking about being even better and better to end up with 12 supplement bottles on your bathroom counter. So, you know, and then that just seems to me that it's playing in the worry and whatnot. And then one day we change all of our supplements because we've just read some other thing and a whole set of other supplements are better. So I don't want to miss out on the supplements though. So what I've done is limit myself to 3. Fish oil, curcumin, turmeric, and of course I can't remember the third one.
Hi, Karen. Thank you. Jim said to turn and face the audience.
I can't hear you.
Oh, are you? The question is, Jim said to turn and face the audience, is thank you very much for your wisdom on this. It's brilliant, and we need to have teachers like you. And I want to ask two things. Will you post this on YouTube, please?
Yes.
So we can all share it with
I
people, more
personally
people.
won't, but someone else.
And secondly, in your wisdom, I think staying in the moment is very important. What do you have to say, though, about advanced healthcare planning for the very end of your life? Because I know you have wisdom on that.
I don't know that so, you all know Loretta because she's just been here speaking, and she's a friend of mine, and between us, we will have covered death, dying, and dementia. Those would be the 3 Ds, aging at Lakeside. All right, and, would you ask me again? See how it is? Oh, the end of life planning. Oh, well, I mean, it has to be done. It has to be done. And it's probably different than if you just are doing end-of-life planning, imagining that you're at some point going to have a stroke or a heart attack or just do that. With dementia, when you know that your disease process is going to end up closing down your life, when you actually know it comes closer into view about what you think you might want. You see, I mean, it is complex, and I would say that I don't even have the answers yet, because, I mean, I could make a plan for being hit by a bus next week, but I don't know if I end up like with my mother, age 96 in a nursing home, has been demented for 20 years, not knowing one thing. There's no end-of-life plan for her. I personally don't have, will I have some more strokes next week and be completely out of it by next Sunday? Maybe. If I haven't made some arrangements before next Sunday for what then happens to me, what will happen? So I guess what I can say about it is, I have written out, I've now had to do it again, because I wrote out all my end-of-life stuff before my diagnosis. I have not done it since, but it has changed enormously, as you can imagine. So I must do that. And because Loretta is still in town, I'll definitely do it before she leaves town.
There are many caregiver workshops given for Mexican villagers. These are done by the Mexican government. I know at least of 2 in Chapala, plus other foreigner planned caregiving workshops. I know from a university in Guadalajara that a caregiver for a dementia person can only take 2 weeks at a time, and they are very well paid.
Wow.
So this, sadly to say, can be a source of job creation for
Yes.
the community. I know a wonderful caregiver who cannot find a job. Right now she's a wonderful housekeeper who makes 60 pesos an hour, and we can't even find a job for her to be a caregiver and change diapers and cook and be loving, and she's honorable, and people are shocked because we want 80 pesos an hour. So keep it in mind, the loving kindness that most Mexican villagers have can be put to good use, keeping in mind that it's only 2 weeks, and then somebody else has to come in. That person has to have a break, and then she can come back.
Yes.
And the caregiver I am talking about speaks basic English.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. I'm a full believer in the support groups that's happening, and I'm wondering if one of the lists might have a list for respite care for those people who will eventually the caregivers who get together, that there might be people interested who enjoy the opportunity to spend some time
Yes.
with a person in the present moment.
Yes, yes. So if you're interested in any of the categories, now we've added another one. So we've got the dementia sufferers, the dementia caregivers, the respite workers, leaders, and facilitators to help run the group. I mean, I think those people leading the group were probably really critical.
I just have a quick question. What time is the meeting?
I have no idea. I mean, you got to figure it out.
Okay,
because I don't know the answer.
The meeting on March 17 is at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you.
Is March 17th St. Patrick's Day? Or?
It is.
That's why you remember.
That's it.
Over here, Karen, on your right, over here.
Hi, Karin. Great,
Hi.
great job. And it's really obvious just the response to this, the standing ovation, all that there is a great concern, all the way to the fear of what I'll call memory loss rather than dementia. And you are the perfect person to have the memory loss. You're very welcome. And I put emphasis on have. You have it. It doesn't have you.
Yes.
And
Good.
it's
Well,
wonderful.
I like that.
And since I'm a physician of a different but complementary to the allopathic approach to memory loss, which is called dementia in that sense, I'm just remembering, yes. Roll it up. Speed it up. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Karin, for your presentation. Just a little story about an incident I dealt with. I have had a friend for 40 years, and he was, we talk about spouses being affected by it. I had a friend for 40 years, and we always talked very often, and he was in a seminary for years. He was the director of a Bible school. He was diagnosed with dementia with Lewy bodies about 2 years ago. And I was able to talk to him. He was still fine for so long, and even this past Christmas, I was able to talk to him, and he was fine. And then, about a month later, it changed so very quickly. He started to ask his wife, where was his wife? Where's Loretta? Why have you hidden my wife from me? And then he started to see her as that character. Remember the character from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Nurse Ratched? And there was one incident, which it drew to an end, where she heard him at nighttime at the door, and she went to see what was going on, and he says, leave me alone, I don't know who you are, you're keeping me from my wife, and then he pushed her. So the time came for them to have to come up, for her to come up with an option, and then she was blessed in as much as she found a home, a place that was secure, that was 5 minutes from her home, but that created another issue, is double financing. She had to maintain her house and maintain him. And one thing I'll say about down here, the entrepreneurial spirit of the Mexican culture, I'm sure there will be facilities coming up to provide secure areas for people with Alzheimer's to live, and it can be visited. And one big advantage of being down here, you don't have to worry about having Alzheimer's and getting out of the facility and freezing to death.
Over here in the gazebo. Yeah, I read some research now, maybe 3-4 years ago. We've all had the experience of walking into a room and then saying, why am I here? What did I come for? Well, it turns out that the research suggests that the way the brain organizes your activities is that arriving at the room is a part of the completion process.
Yes.
And you have to have a double a double memory in order to do that. But having that experience is not evidence of dementia.
Well, no, no. So that's the topic about just usual age-related memory loss. Okay, so we all have that, and that's correct. We all have been since age 40, occasionally going upstairs, swinging into the office and saying, "Why am I here?" I mean, that is totally true. But let me tell you that if you have a dementia diagnosis, you're doing it all the time. And about the 15th time during the day, actually, it gets irritating. So.
Sure do.
Well, I think that try to be happy 20 hours a day, smile. Don't forget to see the moon. I think that helps us.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
We have one back here now.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering if you either read the book or saw the recent movie Still Alice, and if you feel that was an accurate representation.
Well, I do think it was an accurate representation of what she had, which is actually different than what I presently have. So, accurate representation is really a bad place to head, I think. I don't think it'll end up being helpful. I mean, really, we look at whoever she was. I don't do movies much. Whoever she was in Still Alice, I mean, that was pretty much a lovely story. Really, it was done in a lovely way, and it looked like her life was just like really okay. But I'm not going to stand here and say I therefore think that my life or your life would be like her life. So it just depends.
Karen here on the left.
On the left, there.
Thank you, Karen. I wouldn't have missed this for anything. Wonderful presenter, and I really applaud your courage. I'm here with my...
You have to hold the mic right up to your lips.
I have to hold the dog.
See, that's what I was saying about
I think the dog has a question.
The dog has been with us just about as long as the disease. I'm the caregiver. It's my husband, Alex. This is our dog, Annie, who's been absolutely wonderful. And what I wanted to say was that in terms of caregiver support groups, Valerie Rhoda has one, as you're probably aware.
Yes, I'm aware.
Your husband has joined us.
Yes.
And it's absolutely superb because we laugh our heads off, and it's so valuable.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, that's it. Laughing your heads off is actually one of the curative pieces. And honestly, funny things, when you're in the house with your dementia person, all kinds of funny things are going to happen all the time. So don't lose your sense of humor.
One last question over here.
I saw a talk show on TV at home. I have it PVR'd, and it was about a study done about music and the importance of music reaching a person who has dementia.
Yes.
And they suggested to tape record all the person's favorite songs.
Yes.
And play for them. Have you heard of this?
Yes, yes. I just read that, and it's my own experience as well. And it's my own experience as well that music, either playing or listening, is super important. David and I are bluegrass gospel fans, which is really a good side business for a Buddhist. But actually, we have a wonderful time in the evening. We sit and sing bluegrass gospel together. Oh my gosh, it just completely opens my heart, calms my mind, everything. Music is super important. Super important. And I'm speaking here of the person with dementia. I don't know how it is for the caregiver. Okay.
Thank you, Karen. It was wonderful. We hope to see you back next year with an update.
Oh, that's it. I hope to come back next year.
Thank you so much.